All right, so to finish off round one, we had some crazy game sevens, two game sevens. The Vegas Golden Knights and the Minnesota Wild, and the Montreal Canadiens and the Toronto Maple Leafs. So yeah, let's get into it. The first game was the Knights and Wild. Now this game was pretty exciting at the beginning, and then the Knights just pulled ahead. It was 1-1 after the first period, but the Knights just took over from there on out. 6-2 final score. Let's get into these goals. First one was by Matthias Janmark. That was for Vegas, about 14 and a half minutes left in the first period. Talbot played pretty good in the first period, but it helped him that Zach Parise scored for him about 3 minutes left in the first. This game was looking pretty exciting. Nicholas Hague scored for Vegas 2-1. This was in the second period with about 17 or 18 minutes left. However, young player Kirill Kaprizov scored, tying the game up at 2, 15 minutes left in the second. So that was pretty good for them. Fleury was in net. Max Pacioretty scored, however, 12 minutes left in the second, and it was just all hell broke loose after this. Zach Whitecloud scored for Vegas in the second with 6 minutes left. And Marc-Andre Fleury was continuing to make saves, and he played well the rest of the game. Janmark got his second goal of the game, 5-2 Vegas, 7 minutes left in the third. 5-2, like I said, and he got another goal, an empty net. 6-2 Vegas, and Janmark scored with about 3 minutes left in the third, and they advanced to the second round. So I don't like the Knights. I'm not happy about this. I was rooting for Minnesota, but still a good series. And, I mean, with the way the Minnesota Wild played, definitely intimidating the Knights. So, yeah, that was the first game, Game 7. There were two, like I mentioned. The next one was really exciting. The Canadiens completed a 3-1 comeback from the Leafs. I just feel bad for the Leafs. They haven't won a playoff series in 17 years. I feel bad for their fans, but I don't really like Toronto, to be honest, because their basketball team beat my basketball team in the finals just 2 years ago. So I know it's a different sport, but I hold a grudge. So yeah. But anyways, off topic. The Canadiens win 3-1, completing a 3-1 comeback. That's just crazy. And I mean, I feel bad for Joe Thornton too, because, obviously being on the Sharks, I naturally just was rooting for him. Not saying I was rooting for the Leafs, but I was rooting for him to do well. And I feel bad because his shot at a cup, it's looking a little slim now, even slimmer than it was. But yeah, let's get into it. 3-1 final score. This game was pretty exciting. I mean, if you're a Canadiens fan, but the Leafs did score at the end. But let's get into it. Pretty exciting first period, but there was no goals scored. Carey Price was continuing to make good saves. He was like player of the game. Brendan Gallagher scored the first goal off a sloppy Mitch Marner turnover, and it was a breakaway towards the net. He got it in. This was about in the second period with about 17 minutes left. And yeah, so Corey Perry made it 2-0 Canadiens. He scored a really nice goal, about 4.5 minutes left in the second. And that put the Canadiens up 2-0. So, a good goal from him. And that would be their second to last goal. It would actually, no score for a little bit, but however, Tyler Toffoli scored with 2.5 minutes left on the empty netter for the Canadiens over halfway down the ice, and that made it 3-0. William Nylander with a minute and a half left did make the game a little more interesting, as Toronto had an empty net, and they decided to, get that extra attacker. William Nylander scored 3-1, but the Canadiens won. This game was just all over people talking about it because the Canadiens completed a 3-1 comeback and the Leafs failed to win a playoff series once again. It's been 17 years. So, depressing for them, right? So they're going to move on. The Canadiens are going to move on and play the Winnipeg Jets, the other Canadian winner. And the Vegas Golden Knights will play the Colorado Avalanche. So anyways, guys, let me know your thoughts and see you in the next one. That'll do it for round one.